Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 86 for Friday, March 20th, 2020. From Zenatta Consulting, I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the news, because boy, do we have a lot this week.
That's right. The title of this show is ESAP ASAP. Zoho has released the Emergency Subscription Assistance Program. They released this, they recorded this show on Friday. They released this on Thursday night, fairly late. Pretty big news. Basically, if you are a small business, they are going to offer you an opportunity to basically, they're going to cover your subscription costs for the next 3 months. I think you looked, it was 25 employees or fewer, Tyler?
Yep, it's 25 or less, and you can apply for the ESAP.
And Sridhar gives a lovely little speech, a little video that he recorded, it looks like somewhere in the jungles outside of Chennai. And he is basically, it's just a great little video. I recommend you watch it. There's a link to it in the show notes where he basically, they want to give back. They love their customers. They know we're in crazy times right now. They know a lot of small businesses aren't going to be able to afford to maintain their subscriptions. And so they just want to help them out. So there's a link. We're going to put it in the show notes, and there's a link in the article as well, where you can go ahead and apply for the program. And if you qualify, then they're going to waive your subscription fees for the next 90 days.
And this is really something that, like you said, you just don't really see companies doing this, right? And I think just given that Zoho does so well and relies so much on small businesses using their software, and we know that small businesses are going to be the ones that are kind of hit the hardest by this slowdown. So it's really a great thing to do. I mean, yeah, I don't think you're going to see a lot of other companies roll out, basically free subscription periods for people that are already, using the software like this. But it's one of those things
Oh,
that, being a company that has never taken any VC investment and have been bootstrapped themselves, they have the autonomy to decide to do something like this and not have to go and, get board or shareholder approval to be, cutting their own revenue.
yeah, it's a nice thing, kind of unexpected. I actually rolled it out to a few of our clients last night. They were thrilled. I mean, this is we haven't really not talked about it on the show, but we are in some incredibly unique times right now. Interesting times, I guess I would say. And for a lot of our clients, they're shut down, and a lot of businesses are shut down. There are very few businesses can actually operate in an environment like this where people aren't allowed to conduct any commerce really, except from the comfort of their homes. And so it's drastically affecting people, especially those small businesses that really kind of depend on that day-to-day traffic. So it's a
Absolutely.
nice
Hard time
example.
for everyone, but a great thing to do.
Yeah, and so we also have an interesting thing that was released for WorkDrive. Moving on into the news here, this is kind of metadata slash tagging on steroids. So what this allows you to do is create, if you will, kind of a form that you fill out, and you put it on your you go through in WorkDrive and you say, look, I want to create certain fields on certain categorizations for my documents. And anytime a person creates a document, they then can go through and associate it to a data template and be very particular about what's in that document. And they give some really nice examples. And you, by the way, are able to create this entire data template yourself. So you can have a drop-down menu. So you're really able to take all of your documents and kind of segment them very, very, very deeply. It's something I just haven't really seen any other. You have meta tagging, you've got metadata, you've got tagging, but this is kind of a unique way of implementing it. I found it to be pretty interesting. There's a nice little video that runs that kind of shows you how it works if you follow the link. But WorkDrive just continuing to do some stuff. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this, Tyler, but pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. And I've not really seen anything like it, where you can add, for example, a pick list, kind of like we're seeing in the little video here for those watching on YouTube, where you can basically categorize your documents. So a couple examples that Zoho provides here that I think will resonate with a lot of people is, let's say that you're creating, marketing documents inside of WorkDrive. Well, you could have a field for which campaign that document's being used for, which channels. Maybe it's something that's going on social media or something that's going through email, right? And then if I want to go find, let's say, all of my social media marketing collateral for this specific campaign, I can just go ahead and say, all right, show me all of the documents that fit those two categories, right? Or, other examples could be if you're taking a bunch of resumes through WorkDrive, right? You could be flagging them as resumes for a specific role, resumes that contain a specific skill, right? So that when you kind of pass them up to your hiring manager, they could say, okay, show me everyone in this stack of resumes who knows digital marketing, or show me everyone who knows SQL, right? Or whatever you're kind of hiring for, you can basically flag and categorize all of your different resumes just through a system like this. So it's something that I do believe is pretty unique to WorkDrive, not anything that's available on, Google Drive or, Office 365. Of course, you kind of mimic it with foldering, I guess, if you're putting everything into folders. But if you have multiple categories, right, like for an email campaign or a campaign channel, it's nice to be able to categorize them in, any which way that you can envision.
And if you've taken the time to categorize your stuff, I mean, then the filters and the searches that they're giving you are pretty insane. And you can also apply it not just to individual files, but you can apply it to folders itself. So you can
Hmm.
apply these templates to a particular folder. So it pretty interesting. I no idea the little evil genius that came up with this, but I sure do like it. It's some pretty good stuff across the board. So hey, good on you, Zoho. Always coming up with something different. And then Zoho Creator has some improved form workflows that they announced. Nothing real major here. I don't know. Did you get a chance to look at this?
Yeah, I think a big part of this is in it's mostly the UI around this that got an improvement. In terms of like the core functionality, it's about the same. So form workflows in Creator basically are workflows that trigger as you're filling out a form or once you've submitted that form. And basically what they've done here is give a new UI to categorize and group and kind of work through all those different workflows. Previously, they were kind of jumbled, right, where you would just have a big long list of all these workflows, but they basically now allowed you to categorize them on, which form it's running on, what type of trigger it is, is it created, is it while you're editing it, right? Like what are all of these different ways that a workflow can be triggered? And it basically just allows you to categorize them and group them up a little bit better. So if you have a whole bunch of workflows running in a Creator app, which most people are going to have, right? If you go the way of Creator, it's probably because you want to build some really cool stuff. And this will definitely help you keep everything straight and kind of see everything that could be running in a form in a more consolidated view. One of the things that I think will stick out to people here from a functional standpoint is that they actually do allow you to set an execution order for these workflows in this new UI. So basically, if you go top to bottom on the screen, you're able to say, you know what, let's run this first, and then this, and then this, right? And so where that could come into play is you could have a workflow that sets a bunch of default field values, right, inside of a different form, and then another workflow where once those are set, they'll compare those to a couple other fields that you fill in and run some calculations or create other records and what have you. So you're able to kind of now affect the order that these different workflows run in, which can be really, really important if you have sequential automations that you're going to run in Creator.
I'd love to see this come to CRM. I think
Absolutely.
this methodology of managing workflows would just be a huge improvement in CRM. So hopefully that happens. Hey, and in other news, we have got early access is available for Zoho Vault for Safari. So this is the browser extension for Safari, allowing you basically to manage all of your passwords and autofill in your passwords. And it's pretty nice. I took a quick look at it. I don't really use Safari on a day-to-day basis, but they have it. It's not something you're going to get from the Safari extension store. You actually need to download it and install it. So we've kind of got the instructions on the screen for what you can do there. But nothing really much to say about that. It's just kind of a straight up, that's pretty much all it is. Just a nice little extension. And then
Well,
Zoho
extensions are
Sprints. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, extensions are pretty key for any type of password manager, right? Just being able to drop something into your browser to have full access to your passwords without having to actually go to that app. So nice to see them roll that out for the Safari users out there.
Yeah, and then Zoho Sprints now has release management. This is something that has been the huge, big feature that has been requested for a very long time. Um, and it is now kind of finally here. And the big thing about release management allows you to create a release plan for every goal in your project. You can run different iterations from a single release, and basically you kind of set your time frame and run through that. And this has been something for those that are, the scrum masters of the world out there, people working in Jira. They have wanted this for a very long time, and it's going to kind of take Zoho Sprints up that next level when it comes to this type of project management.
Yeah, and this is a big one too, just because the sprint methodology, right, is so widely used in the software development space. It's kind of become the industry standard for managing these projects, and kind of designing your whole sprint around your next upcoming release of that software is a pretty logical way to organize a sprint. So this was definitely one that Sprint's users have been waiting to see, right? And definitely something that's um, nice to have. I mean, especially because any other sprint tool is going to be running based on your releases, right? So it's definitely been kind of a missed opportunity up till now, and great to see it get released.
It is. And then another one great to get it see released is Zoho Subscriptions has added pause and resume. It's really timely, quite frankly, that they've had and they've added this in. And there's really not much more you can say about it, but you now have the ability to pause and resume your subscriptions. Uh, and right now, if you think about it, there are a lot of people maybe where they're not going to have access to their subscriptions. We've got a lot of clients that are out there that provide services that are billed monthly basis. They're running various wellness type of categories, and people are joint members of their studios or whatever, and they're saying, look, we're pausing things for the next 2 weeks. We're pausing things for the next month. We don't know. And they're not going to bill their clients during that period of time. And this really, man, I'm glad they got this out when they did, because this has started to bubble up as a real issue, and now it's kind of a simple deal. It's been in beta for a while, and we've had clients we've been able to move into the beta, but now that it's out there for everybody, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and this is pretty vital for a subscription management tool. It's in a previous life, I used to help run a subscription electric bike company, and they sold a lot to people that were students, right? So they'd be in town for about 9 months, right? And then for 3 months out of the year, they wouldn't be in town. And this was about a year or 2 years ago. And man, we were dying for this function, right? Being able to say, yep, you want this when you come back, but for the next 3 months, you're not here, right? So rather than canceling it and restarting it, let's just put it on a pause for 3 months, and then we'll be ready to start billing again right when you get back. Especially when it comes to kind of being able to bill at all, right? Like once you cancel a subscription, you can't just arbitrarily spin it back up, right? So this kind of serves a really valuable purpose for subscription management, and something that's pretty
Yeah,
standard across the industry for these tools. So pretty vital to have this on Zoho subscriptions.
yeah. I mean, otherwise you have to go and get their credit card information again and start it from scratch. And and that's an opportunity for them to say, you know what, I've thought about it and I've decided I don't want it.
Yep.
So it's again, as you say, extremely necessary. All right, then Zoho Desk gets custom function schedules, and we were talking about this a little earlier. It's only available for Enterprise Edition. The scheduling is something that basically, rather than triggering a custom function based on an action, you basically can trigger it based on a schedule. So if you want to, you've got a custom function that runs through maybe and cleans up some stuff on the back end of your database. Now in Zoho Desk, you can just run it on a schedule, something that's been needed for quite a while, and it's big. Glad they put it in.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways you could see this being of great use. You could say every Friday, let's look at tickets that are overdue, right? And trigger emails to the managers or trigger additional tasks to the people working those tickets, right? So there's all these different kind of scheduled actions that you may want to take that now you can just drop in with this function. So really, really nice.
And on another kind of must needed kind of thing, and this could lead to, and like we could probably talk about this for just hours and hours on end, but Marketing Hub now gets lead per employee parity with Zoho Campaigns. So let's explain this. So Zoho Campaigns, as you know, has been around before Marketing Hub, and it was very limited, very MailChimp-like, meaning that it was pretty much just for sending out newsletters. And then in April of last year at Zoholics, Zoho released Marketing Hub, which was really their kind of answer to HubSpot. And it is a kind of full featured with what are called journeys. Most applications refer to them as sequences, where you can have sequences of various emails. And when Marketing Hub first came out, the licensing, the number of leads that you could then market to inside Marketing Hub was limited to 500 per user in your organization. So you have Zoho 1, you have 10 users, you had basically 500 per user plus 500 for your organization. So you had 5,500 leads that you could put in Marketing Hub and market to. Otherwise, you were going to have to pay for additional leads, and those additional leads were not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Campaigns, on the other hand, was set at 5,000 for the organization and 5,000 per user. So if you had Zoho Campaigns, rather than getting 5,500, you had 55,000 leads that you could market to inside of Zoho Campaigns. And then what has happened over the last year is Zoho Campaigns has slowly sucked in, I don't know, 80% of the features from Marketing Hub, to the point where we as an organization don't even use Marketing Hub anymore because there are so few differences, and from a stability standpoint, and up until this point, this was a big issue as well, this entire cost per lead and the ability to get people into it. So I don't know what's going on here. I kind of expect these products to eventually just merge into one, Tyler. This is something they needed to do, but I don't know. I don't know if it helps them get business from themselves. I almost feel like we've got Campaigns and Marketing Hub and two separate camps competing for each other, competing for business inside of Zoho itself.
Yeah, it's a whole kind of long story, around Marketing Hub's been run by a couple different teams inside of Zoho, so it started with, I believe, the campaigns team. Now it's being run by the Page Sense team. So really, I mean, to me, Marketing Hub kind of has two pieces, right? Where it has the email marketing, right? Which basically all of the novel email marketing functionality from Marketing Hub is now in campaigns, right? The journeys or sequences, right? All the different kind of workflow triggers, making things depend on how they respond to an email, right? All of that's in campaigns now. And so the other unique functionality is really around integrations with your website, right? So on Marketing Hub, you can set like what are called goals or targets on your web page, right? And see how often does a visitor make it to the contact us form, right? Or how often do they make it to a product page, right? If you do e-commerce. And that's a really nice bit of functionality, right? You can basically be testing the efficiency of your website at getting people to purchase or contact screens or pages. So I'd almost imagine that all of that functionality could be rolled into something like PageSense, right? Which is already
So a
used
lot of
to
it's already
track.
there,
Yeah, and it's
right?
already a lot there. And that's already a tool that's implemented on a bunch of people's websites. And they already use it to track their visitors, right? So I almost feel that, the web functionality could be moved to PageSense, email functionality moved to campaigns. And where does that leave Marketing Hub? It's kind of an odd story around this app that I think they had a grand plan, but it never really coalesced or made much sense, at least to me.
Yeah. Well, and in the last year, I mean, when it launched, you did not have, they call them journeys inside Marketing Hub. They're called automations in campaigns. They're called sequences to the rest of the world. You didn't have email sequences, meaning when a person enters a certain list, I am going to send them a series of 6 emails. And not only that, but based upon certain actions or inaction that is taken every time they receive an email, I'm going to then maybe put them into a different sequence or modify the sequence or this or that. That was all only in Marketing Hub. And now that is inside of campaigns. You also didn't have the ability to simple things like pop up um, little pop-ups to say, hey, please subscribe to our newsletter, join this. That was only in Marketing Hub. And you're basically your subscription options for generating a subscribe code was extremely limited in campaigns, and now it's extremely robust in campaigns. Campaigns added texting campaigns to it. So it just it's to the point where I don't know, we can beat a dead horse here, but I will say that next Tuesday, or you're listening to this on Monday, so tomorrow, on Tuesday, 24th, we're going to be doing an entire webinar on campaigns and not Marketing Hub, and we're going to cover a good chunk of all of this. Uh, I just kind of wish that they'd get rid of one or the other, just merge it, rename campaigns Marketing Hub. I think give whatever limited features are left in Marketing Hub, go ahead and put it in campaigns. Campaigns is much more stable. It integrates with the CRM better. Just everything across the board. But that's that. But if you're using Marketing Hub and you've been paying for all of these extra users, you should see a decrease, I guess, with this new change. All righty. Whoops, I kind of jumped ahead here. Let me go back. A little more Zoho news. All right, and our last, we got two little bits more news here. So additional placement for custom buttons have been released. So oftentimes you do a custom function and you want to trigger that custom function by placing it as a button up in the CRM. And they're giving you a little more latitude as to where you place these now, Tyler.
Yeah, and this is a really this is a really interesting one because they're basically allowing you to place these buttons in a list view. Now you may say, but I could already have them in a list view, but not quite how they work now. So previously the buttons that you could have in a list view would be like I select 3 records, and then I have a button where I could trigger a function on those records from the list view. So maybe I want to reformat some phone numbers, or I want to create some type of child record, right? So I select these in the list and I click the button and the function runs. Now these new list view buttons are basically running functions or actions that don't have to do with the records themselves, meaning this isn't going to trigger a function on the records in that module. It's going to do something related to the module as a whole. So they kind of give a nice example about where you may use this, right? So maybe you have a module for all of your products, right? And you want to go and place an order for more products. Maybe you do that through some type of vendor portal or vendor application, right? So you can make a button in that view that actually links you directly to that vendor app or that vendor portal, right? So the idea is that you can have links or little plugins running from that module view, but that aren't interacting with the specific records in that module. So it's kind of nice being able to, create these easy links or create these little extensions that you can just tie right into that view. But again, it's just an important distinction that it's not doing anything to the records themselves because that actually was already in the Zoho CRM.
Yeah, so I think this will clean some stuff up a little bit, hopefully. I mean, do you see any use cases for this out of the gate?
Yeah, I think the big one will be links, right? Like just quick links or, invoking a URL or invoking some type of little widget with those buttons just because it's not going to be doing anything to the records themselves. So it'll have to be some type of external action that you're going to want to do. Alrighty, moving on to our last piece of Zoho news here for the day. This is one that is definitely nice to see. And they basically updated and increased the different field limits inside of CRM records. So for most of the listeners out there, these are limits that you'll never bump into, right? We're talking about 130 string fields or 30 integer fields for the previous values. So for most of your day-to-day usage, you don't really need any more than that. But for some of the listeners out there, and you'll know who you are, this is going to be exciting to hear, is that you basically can add a whole bunch more of all these different field types to each record. Right, so for example, some of the ones that actually are nice to see on my end are that they increase the decimal field limit from 20 to 40. This is one of the ones that we'd actually bump into more often because those decimal fields actually count for currency, standard decimal, or percentage fields, right? So they kind of cover a lot of ground that you may see in a module. So if you're doing anything in like the finance space, or if you're pricing things out in a deal and you have a lot of different factors on the price, right? That's actually a limit that you could realistically run into. So for those seeing us on YouTube, you can see those limits up on the screen here, but basically they've gone ahead and done between a 50 and 100% increase for most of the limits here across the board for these fields. So for those who might be building custom modules just to get around these limits, you can now go ahead and actually just keep them all in that parent record. But I will advise, if you're consistently running into the limits on these fields, you may be adding some redundant fields, because it's hard to imagine we need to use all of these given how these limits were already pretty high to begin with.
Well, unless, you had 50 check boxes, now you can go to 80. It's a lot of check boxes in one module, I gotta say. You got a lot of things you want to check off. Strangely enough, we have had several clients that have, we've talked to them and started working with them, and they were bumping up against these limits. There are, every single bit of data being collected in an individual field inside of a module, and sometimes leading them to spin off into other modules. I do think this helps tremendously uh, for some type of things. Like you say, integers is a big one. One
Yeah,
thing
the
I noticed
date
is
date
go
fields may
ahead.
be nice as well too.
Yep.
If you're doing a lot of cadence tracking in your like outreach, I mean, they're already at 25, so that's a whole lot of touch points that you can track, to track cadence, but upping that to 50 is kind of nice just because, those are a pretty valuable field for tracking your sales cycle, right? So the more the merrier, but, some of these limits are probably ones that are not getting touched very often here.
The strange thing is, though, they are actually have decreased this number a bit, because it used to be you could have 310 fields in a module, and now you can only have 300 custom fields in a module. So they've increased the limits, but they're dropping the number of these you can have. So even though you can have 200 string fields and 50 dates and 50 date and times, that would be it. You would hit your limit when you hit that. So it's good. I don't see anything about, the big one was always formula fields.
Yep.
And I don't really see any mention of formula fields in this. So that's a little bit, I don't know. Hopefully we'll see, because the formula fields were the one, what was it limited to? 4, something like that?
Yeah, it's a
6?
handful of formula fields.
Right. And that is one you bump into all the time, and there was really, I think it was just the calculations they're trying to do on a page with those, but it hopefully we'll see some changes there, because quite frankly, that's the big one that I would care about at the end of the day. Alrighty, so let us move on to the implementation of the week. Josh went crazy. What do we have this week?
Yeah, so this was a really interesting one, and it basically came from the request of one of our clients who was saying that they get these lists of leads, right? And these lists come with up to 3 phone numbers, but they're really just called phone 1, phone 2, and phone 3. And part of our client's plan was to roll out SMS marketing through the CRM to these different leads. But if you're just getting a big list and you just have 3 different phone numbers, you don't really know which one's the mobile number, right? And when you're running these SMS campaigns, they're going to bill you based on how many texts or SMSs you actually send out. So you really don't want to be, wasting money sending texts to landlines, right? So what we had to do was come up with a solution where we could take, phone 1, phone 2, and phone 3, and basically scan them to find out which one's the mobile and is it valid, right? So that we can start doing our SMS marketing. So one of our developers, Josh, found this tool called numverify. It's numverify.com is the website. And basically it's like an API tool that you can call via webhook, right? And get a response. So basically the way this implementation comes together is a list of leads gets imported into the CRM. Their phone numbers go into fields phone 1, phone 2, and phone 3, right? We trigger this function on all of those leads that are imported. the function itself makes the API calls out to numVerify, which basically returns that the phone number is either a landline or mobile, and that it is a valid number or an invalid number, right? And then out of those different numbers, we basically take the one that is the mobile number, right, which could be in field 1, 2, or 3. We figure out, okay, so now we know it's mobile, now is it valid? And so if it's mobile and valid, we actually write it into the CRM default mobile field, which is what all of the SMS tools use for their integration, right? So now basically at the click of a button, you've validated the phone numbers, you've found the mobile one, you've moved it into the right place to use it for SMS marketing, right? And then you are off to the races, right? Because now you know you have a valid mobile number. You're not wasting any money on these texts, right? You know they're going to hit a real phone number that is mobile and can receive it, right? And it all came together super easily. So that this numVerify site is awesome. I mean, you basically just have to post a webhook to, and it gives you all of the information that that you need to do this exact integration. So it's a really cool tool, and definitely one that we're going to be adding to the bank here, because even outside of defining something as a mobile number, you may just want to be in the habit of querying this to see if you're getting valid phone numbers, right? If you're buying lists of leads from 3 different sources, right? Maybe you want to know, okay, out of these 3 different sources, who's giving us the best data, right? Are we getting real phone numbers from these guys, or are they just giving us, whatever they have on hand, whether it's valid or not? There's a whole bunch of different implementations that I could see using this tool. For a variety of reasons. It's cost effective, it's super easy to plug in with webhooks, and it gives you a ton of useful data.
Yeah, so it took me a while, but I finally found the pricing on this as well. So not horrible. 5,000 API requests a month cost you $10. Um, 50,000 API requests for $40, and 250,000 for $99. It's a monthly basis, and that's kind of all inclusive, gives you the suite. But this is fantastic. Yeah, I mean, and he just I was unaware he was even building this. Just a great little, just a great little deal. And so and we've automated this process, right? We're picking out the number that is the number, popping it into the mobile field. Is that
Yep,
correct?
exactly. So basically you click the button and then you're ready to do SMS marketing. Just one click.
Fantastic. Great stuff.
Absolutely.
All righty, and let us move on to this week's reads. Couple this week. This one I thought was really interesting. Go into HubSpot, an oldie but goodie. Have not gone here in a while. I wanted to stay away from kind of work at home and some other stuff. I feel like we've been talking about that an awful lot over the last few weeks. But this is the sales cycle, and it is a quick little 4-minute read. And it really kind of goes through your overall sales cycle and what it should look like. So it has it's defining 7 stages of a sales cycle. So prospect, connect, research, present, handle objections, close, and then follow up and generate referrals. These are very broad, and it's a good place to start though. And I think that for anybody that's saying, how do I set up my CRM? How do I set up my leads? So what are my lead statuses? What should they be? When does something no longer become a lead? When do I convert it into a contact, an account, and then I create a deal? And in the deal, what should my various deal stages be? I think that for the most people, you can fit into these. Now, you're not going to use these names, and you probably can have several different steps in, number 3, for example, in the research, or in present, which maybe is demo. And after you've presented, maybe there's a request for proposal, and then the proposal is sent, and then maybe you get into handle objections. But these are some broad strokes, but I think definitely worth taking a look at as you're trying to build out your various stages and your various statuses as you go through in the CRM. And I think just reading through this and kind of looking at the different breakdowns they have here, I think you'll get something out of it.
Yeah, and this is kind of like the world that we live in, right? In a nutshell here, is building out these sales cycles, right? Because you kind of want to map your CRM or any software that you're using to this sales cycle, and it can be challenging to do, but you really do need to have some type of system or cycle or process, right? However you want to term it, Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a system, you can't improve the system, right? You need to have a methodology so that you can try to figure out, okay, where in this methodology are we doing well, where we can build on it, and where are we not doing well, right? So if you have, steps 1 through 7, and you're tracking your deals, of the deals that make it to step 2, what makes it to step 3, what makes it to step 4, right? And you're kind of building your funnel, right? This is kind of where all those type funnel reports or funnel analytics can come in. You could find, hey, you know what? We're actually losing 50% of our deals at the present stage, right? Everything's moving great up until we get into that presentation. So we need to change something up about how we're presenting, right? So if you can build some type of cycle or process into how you're running sales, it gives you the ability to learn more about where you're winning and where you're losing.
Yes, and like you said, it's where we live, and I just think it's just key. It's fundamental. It's the basic blocking and tackling. I mean, anytime we're sitting down with someone, brand new CRM, where do we start? We start with leads. We talk about their statuses. We discuss conversion. It's that entire basic blocking and tackling. What does it look like? And the other thing that's not in here, because this is covering the sales cycle, but there could be a whole nother article on post sales. And oftentimes in the CRM, you're going to want to track post sales as well, because it's great you got to close, and I'm really glad you got there, but that's just when the fun really starts for a lot of companies, because oftentimes companies, they only have 2 cycles, 3 cycles, 3 steps to close. That's it. And then everything, there's 15 steps after post sale. So, you want to think about those things as well, but good job. This is Meg Prater. I've got her little Twitter feed in here as well. Fantastic job. Good article, short, tight read. Hey, and then over at Zenatta, a couple things I want to point out here. We've got a blog out this week, which is tracking website conversions. And we're talking about how to track them using Sales IQ, as well as using Google Analytics for Zoho CRM, and really kind of the whole process of automating that. It is a tight little read, but I recommend you take a look at it. Plus, there are a couple things that I think also are worth looking at. We're doing some things, and this is slowly being built out, but we've launched a YouTube site, and we're basically turning those, so like this show will probably have a couple little discrete videos that'll come out of it that you might find of value, and those are all being posted over on the blog site now. So for example, last week, one of the things we talked about was say no to duplicate records. And that was kind of our tip and trick of the week last week. Well, that's broken out as a separate video. And then we talked about link match last week. That was our application of the week. So we're really kind of breaking these out so you can kind of really just hone in on certain things you're interested in looking at. And we also slowly but surely are building out our resource library. So in the top menu, you can look at our resources. And if you go into like sales and marketing, for example, you can go into look at our CRM. And then overall in the CRM, you can see all of the different types of resources we have. So we have 27 different articles on CRM, 5 different guides, 15 different videos. So these are all kind of broken down. You can kind of slip through and kind of go through each and every different section, find out what you're looking for. This is coming together. There's a whole lot of stuff here in order for us to make this work. We've got hundreds and hundreds of pieces of content, plus there's external content, and we're trying to pull that in. We're slowly getting it there. So if you're bored, you need something to read, kind of head over to zenatta.com, check out the resource guide and the blog. I think you'll find some good stuff there.
Absolutely.
All righty, let us move on to our application of the week, shall we?
Yeah, and this is one that you have been swearing by since the day that I met you. This is one of your longtime favorites, it sounds like, and one that gets a whole bunch of mileage in any spreadsheet that you're working in.
It does. So this is for both Excel and G Suite, and it's by a company called AbelBits, and I've got all the links in the show notes, and it's really something you can just check out and take a look at. Pricing on it is around, if you're using Google, you can pay $43 for a year, or you can pay $89 lifetime. In Excel, you can just buy it for $79 or $129, depending on if you're buying an individual or business version. Depends on how many machines you can install it on. But this is a quick little plugin that when you're working in a spreadsheet allows you to do some pretty amazing things. And for us, we spend a lot of time in spreadsheets. people are oftentimes moving from one application to another application. And the middle layer in that is always a spreadsheet. Or oftentimes we find companies that are working just in spreadsheets and the data isn't quite there. So you can really do some very cool things in this application. Yeah, I'll give you an example. So you will get data, and that data is not really in what's called proper case. It's in like, the first letter of so a person's name and it's all lowercase. Well, that doesn't work. And if you're looking at a spreadsheet and you've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fields, well, you're probably going to want to be able to clean that up because you're going to go ahead and you're going to import that data into the CRM, and you really don't want a whole bunch of, names where it's all lowercase, because especially if you get the first name where it's lowercase, maybe you're going to send that out in an email and you don't want it to come out, hey, Brett, and the B is lowercase. It doesn't look professional. Well, this tool allows you just to kind of quickly select all of that data and say, hey, capitalize the first letter in each and every column, and this will go ahead and capitalize that first letter for you. Or, I've got an example that I'm actually showing if you're watching the video at home where I'm using sample data and the last name was tagged with the word sample. Well, maybe you want to remove that string of data. So you can just kind of quickly go in and say, hey, I want to remove that string where it says sample. Highlight the column, click the word, and then boom, sample is completely removed. You can also do this by position. So, you're doing something, you want to split stuff, you want to combine things. So another big use of this is you get first name and last name are all in one column. Well, that's not going to import into Zoho. You need the first name and last name to be separate. So this has the ability to quickly and easily split things. So you can split them based on names, you can split them based on position, you can do all sorts of things. You can say, I want to split them based on, however, maybe they're separated by comma, maybe they're separated by a space. It goes on and on and on. So there's a whole bunch of tools here for combining and modifying and splitting and doing all this kind of things. And at the end of the day, uh, well worth taking a look at. It's the time it will save you. This thing will pay for itself in just a couple of hours, and it's great. And it's a lifesaver for us. You can just do so much with it as far as, just cleaning things up, because data is important, and making sure that your data is clean is just so important with your CRM. You spend a lot of time building your CRMs, helping your sales guys, getting your marketing team, everything, and you want it to look professional, and you need the data to be clean. So we're all about the clean data, Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is such a nice tool to do that so quickly. And for those who spend a lot of time in Excel, you may recognize some of those functions are things you can do with the tools that are pre-baked into Excel, right? But the real benefit, and if you do check out the little video that we'll have on this, is just that the UI with this tool is so quick and easy to use that you're doing things that might be familiar that you may know how to do in Excel already, but you're just doing them much faster, right? And if you need to run through a bunch of spreadsheets, clean up a lot of data, time is money, and saving you a significant amount of time is going to make all the difference in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, you can create formulas for virtually every single thing that you can do in this application. You're right, concatenate and go ahead and combine things together. You can do that, but the speed at which this does it, and kind of the it makes it idiot proof, if you will. Also, we didn't even talk about it, but you can dedupe and all sorts of things, and and that you can't do easily. So you can dedupe and
Yep.
say, I don't want to get rid of them. I just want to highlight things. I want to color the fields. I want to point these things out, and that's just really big. So you definitely don't want to import 500 dupes on a spreadsheet or something like that. So anyway, that is our application of the week, and it's AbelBits, and give them a look, support them. Great guys, love the application, and just an overall fantastic tool. All right, and then let's wrap it up with our tip and trick of the week. And Tyler, this is how to customize your Zoho CRM homepage. So this is something we really get asked about all the time, which is how do what can you do with our home screen? And the default home screen that you get from Zoho CRM is pretty basic. It's going to give you your tasks, your leads, your close tasks, your contacts. If you're watching the video, I've got one up on the screen right now. It comes up as an untitled homepage now, so you really don't have much to do with that. But if you go and you click in that upper right hand corner and you kind of look at all of the various options you have, you can just do a classic view. These going to give you your open tasks and events and deals. But I think what you want to mostly look at is you want to click on this customize your homepage button. So on the homepage, click on that customize your homepage, and it's going to give you a list of all your homepage. You can have multiple homepages, and you can share these homepages with specific user groups within your organization and create them as default. So, if you look at the untitled homepage that comes here, number one, you can go ahead and give it a title if you like. But the big things are the way you can populate your homepage is from two areas. One is custom views. And if you're unfamiliar with custom views, this is in all of your modules. This is where you're filtering out your data. I only want to see contacts that were added this week. So this would maybe be a new contact view. And maybe you want to put that on your dashboard. So you can pretty much pull in any custom view you want. You just go ahead and you choose the module you want, and then you choose the custom view you want, and it's automatically and easily going to go ahead and add that to your dashboard for you, to your homepage. And then you also have dashboards. And so dashboards is its whole separate module, but you could build out, in this case, really, really nice detailed types of analytics and kind of pretty dashboards that you can put in. And these will basically give you more detailed information. And just like I say, it's a very pretty and elegant manner. And you can build all of these out. They call it analytics now. But if you're in the whole analytics side of Zoho, inside the CRM, you click on analytics, not to be confused with regular analytics. But if you go into this analytics, here you can build out any of these dashboards that you want. And in order to add them to your homepage, you just kind of go and you say, I want to add this to my homepage and this to my homepage and this to my homepage. At the end of the day, you go ahead and save it, and you end up with a much, much prettier dashboard across the board. So all of these can easily be added directly. Any type of widget that you want to build, be added to that homepage. And they're really doing a lot with these dashboards lately. I'm finding that it's amazing the number of dashboards they're adding, and the ability to kind of customize these, and the kind of things you can do here are, we could do an entire segment, I think, on just these boards and how to build these out.
Yeah, I mean, they're really valuable because one of the downsides of Zoho is that it can be a little confusing to kind of navigate all over the place, right? Especially if you're not someone who kind of is used to living in a software suite like this. So using these homepages, you can provide for, either your sales reps or any of your users just a really easy jumpstart at the beginning of their day, right? So they could come in and see, okay, where's all my new leads, right? Where are my deals that I need to follow up on, right? Do I have any open tasks? Do I have any scheduled calls or events, right? Where they can get that instant data at the beginning of their day to know where to jump off, right? And it kind of becomes home base for figuring out the next thing or the most important thing to do.
Yes, and it's a simple thing, but again, there are so many times that we'll talk to a person and they've done nothing with their homepage, and it's a good spot to get things organized and to see your day, like you said. So, well, Tyler, we have managed to blast through yet another show. Episode 85 is in the bag.
I know it's been actually this is episode 86.
Is it episode 86?
You're even
Episode
one behind.
86 is in the bag. I
It's a
know.
quick week.
86. We're 86, baby. Anyway, it's getting better and better. They're getting longer and longer. I thank everybody for putting up with us. And with that, we're going to wrap up the show. If you have questions or comments, you can send them to us over at info@zenatta.com, or you can just head over to zenatta.com and drop us a line.
And on the website is where you'll find the complete episodes of the show, as well as show notes with all the links to the stories we discussed today. And as always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platform, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, and even catch a whole bunch of our content on YouTube. So we will see you next Monday.